Powerful people do not live in the same world you do. You see individuals, personalities, good and bad people. They see a moving map of leverage, alliances, favors, debts, and quiet exchanges that never show up on Instagram or LinkedIn. You call it friendship. They call it leverage. That's the first thing you have to swallow if you want to climb. In the world of power, no bond is neutral. Every connection you build either pulls you slightly up the invisible ladder or quietly pushes you down it. Most people lose the game right here. They approach powerful people like they're trying to make a friend or impress a mentor. They want to be liked, appreciated, validated. They think being nice, respectful, talented, or hardworking is enough to open doors. It isn't. Power has its own language. If you don't speak it, you're background noise. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that rulers didn't reward people because they were good. They rewarded people because they were useful. Virtue might win you praise, but usefulness wins you access. So, here's Law 1 of social climbing. Never approach power as a beggar. Approach as an answer. The moment you show need, you drop your status. The moment you show clear value, the dynamic flips. People with power are constantly surrounded by takers, flatterers, and hangers-on disguised as supporters. They feel it instantly when someone is adding weight to their world or secretly draining it. Your job is simple. Position yourself as a stabilizer. Someone who makes things smoother, calmer, more efficient. Someone who doesn't fight their power, but completes it. You're not another mouth to feed. You're infrastructure, but you can't do that if you rush in desperate to impress. Which leads to Law 2. Observe before you move. The biggest mistake climbers make is talking too fast, revealing too much, trying too hard. They walk into a room full of power and start performing. Machiavelli would tell you to do the opposite. Study people the way a general studies the terrain before a battle. Powerful people hide behind crafted personas, but their real fears, cravings, and insecurities always leak out. Who they interrupt versus who they let speak. Who they listen to fully. What topics make them tense, animated, or distant. What kind of people they keep close. In the beginning, you're not there to impress. You're there to diagnose. Because once you understand what they truly crave, respect, recognition, loyalty, amusement, admiration, you can give it to them in a form that feels rare and irresistible. That brings us to Law 3. Mirror their world, not yours. Powerful people feel safe with what feels familiar. You don't become their opposite. You become their echo with your own twist. If they're pragmatic, you speak in practical outcomes. If they worship exclusivity, you talk in terms of rarity and access. If they live on risk, you speak in calculated bets, not comfort. This isn't fake. It's rhythm. When your energy, tone, and perspective fall into sync with theirs, you stop registering as a stranger and start registering as one of us. That's the first crack in the wall between outsider and insider. But familiarity alone is not enough. If they feel like they understand everything about you in the first week, you'll be forgotten in the second. So, Law 4. Keep mystery in your value. If you lay out every skill, every contact, every resource you have, you become a product on a shelf. And products are replaceable. Machiavelli understood that partial revelation creates hunger. You want them to sense there's more to you than you're showing. More reach, more insight, more connections. Not because you're bragging, but because you don't over-explain. You deliver something sharp and useful and then stop. That gap. What else can this person do? Is what makes you memorable. Curiosity replaces indifference. You go from one more person in the room to someone I should probably keep close, but mystery only works if you don't come off as thirsty. So we move to Law 5. Appear humble in ambition, but ruthless in execution. High-status people hate obvious hunger. It reminds them of their own climb. They don't want to see the clawing, grasping version of themselves they had to be years ago. So, you do something counterintuitive. On the surface, you look calm, patient, not in a rush. You don't beg for chances. You don't talk about how badly you want it. But when an opening appears, you move. Fast, decisive, precise. You take responsibility when others hesitate. You solve the problem no one wants to touch. You deliver the result no one expected you to pull off. That contrast, quiet posture, lethal follow-through is magnetic to powerful people. It signals this: I understand the rules here. I'm not here to disrupt your position, but if you give me space, I know exactly what to do with it. And once you've proven that, you're ready for the next level, making power choose you instead of you chasing it. That's where we'll go next. Once you've shown that you can move with calm precision, you're ready for something most people never even attempt. Making powerful people compete for your loyalty. That's Law 6, and it's one of the most misunderstood dynamics in the hierarchy of influence. You never, ever want your allegiance to feel automatic. If you appear too eager, too available, or too attached, you instantly lose value. Powerful people don't chase what they already own. They chase what feels just out of reach, close enough to touch, but not close enough to control. So your job is to create just a little friction. Not rebellion, not disrespect, just independence. You don't throw yourself at anyone. You don't revolve your world around one person. You maintain relationships with other influential individuals, even subtle ones, so others know you're wanted. If someone else of status respects your time, you don't hide it. You let it be known, casually, lightly. Not as bragging, just as reality. This raises your perceived price without a single word spoken. Machiavelli warned, when you make yourself too accessible to one master, you become disposable. The powerful guard what is not easily possessed. And now we step into Law 7. Turn flattery into strategy. Basic praise is worthless to people at the top. They hear, "You're amazing, son," and "You're brilliant." So often it becomes background noise. Real influence comes from precise flattery. Don't say, "You're a genius." Say something like, "Your timing on that move was perfect. No one else could have read the moment that sharply." Now your praise isn't generic. It's anchored to their identity, intelligence, intuition, control. Instead of boosting their ego blindly, you reinforce the traits they're most proud of. And the moment you do that, something subtle happens. They associate that good feeling with you. But precision alone isn't enough, which brings us to Law 8. Never let your ambition outshine theirs. This is where many talented people fail. Even if you're more capable, more clever, or more resourceful, you never display it too openly, not in a way that threatens their position. Power has a fragile ego. Machiavelli said it clearly. Those who make a ruler feel inferior will be crushed, not because they're dangerous, but because they trigger insecurity. Your strength must always appear to support their strength, never compete with it. Your victories should look like extensions of their vision. Your accomplishments should seem like they elevate the structure they built, not replace it. Hide sharpness inside obedience. Power protects loyalty, but it destroys competition. And once you've earned proximity without triggering envy, you're ready for Law 9. Build alliances sideways, not just upward. Most people obsess over impressing the figure at the top. But the real game? It's the circle around them. The gatekeepers, the lieutenants, the assistants, the confidants, the advisors. These people control access, shape perception, deliver information, and influence decisions long before the leader even hears your name. Machiavelli called them the invisible princes, because they often hold more functional power than the ruler they serve. So what do? Befriend them quietly. Help them solve small but meaningful problems. Give them advantages that make their life smoother. Respect their role. They will lift your name upward without you ever asking, because when the inner circle trusts you, the throne follows. But alliances alone aren't enough. To rise, you must reshape how you use gratitude. Which brings us to Law 10. Make gratitude a weapon, not a weakness. When someone powerful helps you, don't act like a servant. Servants say thank you once and then disappear. Strategists return value. You repay favor with favor, not instantly, not anxiously, but with precision. Maybe you bring information that protects their interest. Maybe you help them avoid a mistake. Maybe you solve a problem they didn't expect you to fix. Gratitude backed by action transforms you from a receiver into a contributor. And contributors are not removed, they are protected. Still, gratitude must be balanced with backbone. Which brings us directly to Law 11. Master the art of subtle rebellion. Total obedience invites contempt. Total agreement looks weak. Total submission makes you untrustworthy because you seem spineless. Every powerful person needs to know you have boundaries, principles, and a spine. So you resist not loudly, not dramatically, but intelligently. A small disagreement here, a soft pushback there, framed as, I think this version might protect your interests better, or that move could work, but here's a safer path. You're not attacking their authority, you're refining it. You're showing you can think independently while still honoring their position. This gains respect without challenging the throne. And respect is what leads you to Law 12. Control your visibility. Exposure feels good, but it's dangerous. If you're seen too often, you become familiar. If you're familiar, you lose novelty. If you lose novelty, you lose mystique. But if you appear rarely, yet every appearance counts, you become someone people remember, not just someone they see. Step back after victories. Step back after brilliance. Step back after delivering value. Let them miss your presence. Let them wonder where you went. Let them think about you in the silence. Power gravitates toward what feels selective. And all of this brings us to Law 13. The crown of them all. Move as though you already belong. Even before you're accepted, before you're invited in, before anyone acknowledges you, you carry yourself like belonging is inevitable. Not arrogant, not loud, just calm certainty. Insecurity smells louder than perfume. Confidence, quiet confidence is magnetic. When you walk into a room full of power, you don't shrink. You don't hover. You don't seek permission to exist there. You walk like someone whose presence makes sense. Machiavelli said, "Fortune favors the one who appears already favored." When you act like you belong, people start believing you do, long before they understand why. And that's the beginning of real influence. Connection with power isn't about pretending to be more than you are. It's about understanding perception, how people read you, interpret you, assign value to you, and how you quietly shape that perception without ever looking like you're trying. That's the foundation of everything that comes next. Because the moment you enter the world of power, you discover a harsh truth. Arrival is an illusion. There is no final level, no position that stays secure forever. Every alliance shifts. Every bond is temporary. Every hierarchy is a living organism. What elevates you today can bury you tomorrow if you stop evolving. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. His real genius wasn't just knowing how to rise, but how to stay elevated without becoming a threat. So let's move into the next principle. Never become predictable. Predictability kills fascination. Predictability kills curiosity. Predictability kills influence. The powerful get bored easily. Their world is filled with routine, repetition, and people who behave exactly as expected. If they can predict your every move, your every reaction, your every tone, you fade into the background faster than you climbed. So you introduce subtle unpredictability, not chaos, not volatility, just enough variation to keep you interesting. Maybe you're usually calm and analytical, but one day, you present a brilliant solution with sudden decisiveness. Maybe you're typically quiet, but you choose one meeting to drop a sharp insight that changes the whole direction. These little shifts create an emotional hook. You stand out because you're not one-dimensional. But unpredictability must be grounded in control, so we pair it with the next rule: strategic disappearance. Silence is power's favorite tool. The ability to vanish without explanation and return with momentum signals independence. Powerful people respect those who don't orbit around anyone. When you disappear for a bit, their minds start to ask questions. Where did you go? What are you building? Who else is paying attention to you? Curiosity is your ally. Silence makes your presence feel intentional. And when you reappear, you bring a win, a new insight, or an opportunity. Your return feels like an event, not an accident. From there, we move to a deeper, subtler principle. Your social image should always feel slightly above your actual position, not dramatically above, slightly. If you are unknown, behave like someone who is emerging. If you are in small rooms, speak like someone who is comfortable in bigger ones. Carry yourself like someone who is rising, not someone who's waiting for permission to rise. People don't invite those they see as beneath them. They invite those who elevate the room by their presence. Machiavelli might call this anticipated prestige. People treat you as who you're becoming, not who you currently are. But appearances must be paired with restraint, which brings us to the next core idea. Never compete for attention directly. Let others scramble for the spotlight. Let them perform, brag, posture, and beg for applause. They build fame. You build power. There are two roles in every hierarchy: performers and architects. Performers crave attention. Architects shape the stage itself. The powerful admire architects. People who influence decisions, not audiences. People who quietly steer conversations without demanding credit. If someone else wants the recognition, let them have it. Credit inflates egos. Influence builds leverage. But even influence must be handled carefully, which leads us to a critical rule. Practice controlled usefulness. If you make yourself too indispensable, you become a threat. If the system can't function without you, people start imagining how to remove you. Power does not like dependency that doesn't serve its interests, so you rotate your value. You offer help in one area today, guidance in another area weeks later, connections or insight at another time. Not all at once, not predictably, not in a way that traps anyone into relying on you. You evolve. Your usefulness transforms. You remain relevant, but never irreplaceable. Once you've mastered that, you enter a subtle territory: emotional politics. Logic works at the lower levels, but the higher you climb, the more everything becomes emotional economics. Powerful people don't want raw truth. They want truth that doesn't damage their ego. They want insight disguised as reassurance. They want correction disguised as enhancement. So you learn the art of shaping ideas without triggering defense. Instead of saying, "This strategy is wrong," you say, "This strategy is strong, but adjusting this one angle could make it unstoppable." You're not contradicting. You're upgrading. They leave the conversation feeling smarter, never smaller. You protect their ego while advancing your influence. This requires one skill above all: be the calmest person in the room. Power gravitates toward emotional stillness. When everyone else is panicking or arguing, the quiet person becomes the center of gravity. Stillness radiates control. Control radiates authority. Even Machiavelli said fear is often achieved not through aggression, but through unreadability. When people can't predict your emotional reactions, they step carefully. That's authority without aggression. But authority is nothing without trust. So here's what comes next. Make powerful people feel safe in their insecurities. Every person of status carries doubts: fear of betrayal, fear of irrelevance, fear of losing control. Your role is not to exploit those insecurities. Your role is to soothe them subtly. Provide clarity privately. Offer insight without judgment. Become the one person who understands their hidden weaknesses without using them as leverage. When you do that, something powerful happens. They begin protecting you in rooms you will never see. And finally, one of the most important rules: never orbit power. If your entire world revolves around powerful people, you become dependent, and dependency kills influence. Instead, build alliances at every level: upward, sideways, and downward. When people from multiple layers respect you, no single person owns you. No single connection defines you. And that independence makes you rare. The powerful chase what they cannot fully control. At this stage of the climb, most people make a fatal mistake. They confuse performance with presence. They think influence requires constant speaking, constant smiling, constant activity. But the opposite is true. Influence is built through contrast, not noise. You don't become memorable by being everywhere. You become memorable by being different from everyone. So here's the next principle. Be restrained in speech, but vivid in expression. You speak with intention, not compulsion. You talk to deliver signal, not noise. You show warmth without becoming available. You're present without being clingy. This creates a tension approachable yet untouchable. Powerful people are drawn to that energy. They live surrounded by people who want things from them. Someone who radiates self-possession, who is warm but not needy, becomes magnetic. When you master that emotional distance, something subtle starts happening. People of influence begin to seek your approval without realizing it. And that marks the beginning of your real ascent. Then comes the next layer. Stop chasing acceptance and start radiating it. You move like someone who belongs anywhere, yet depends on no one. People can feel that. It's an unspoken gravity that pulls attention without demanding it. The most dangerous social climbers in history weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. They weren't flashy. They were tranquil, deliberate, impossible to place. You couldn't tell whether they were just beginning their climb or already at the summit. That ambiguity is power. Because in a world obsessed with hierarchy, mystery feels like dominance. Machiavelli understood that appearance often outweighs reality. People respond to what they think you are long before they understand what you can do. So, you sculpt perception, not through lies, but through selective revelation. Every gesture, silence, and phrase is chosen with intent. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to outshine anyone. You guide emotions instead of conversations. And slowly, invisibly, you rise, one subtle rung at a time. Because true elevation doesn't happen on grand stages. It happens in overlooked moments, whispers, subtle nods, strategic silences. The real climb begins when you stop needing to be noticed and start needing to be remembered. But even once you're remembered, you face a new challenge: the gravity of power. Power wants to pull you in. It wants your loyalty, your time, your attention, your dependence. And that's where most social climbers fail. They confuse proximity with permanence. They think being invited means being accepted. But in truth, every room of influence has two kinds of people: those who are useful and those who are used. If you don't know which one you are, you're the latter. Machiavelli would remind you, the higher you rise, the colder the air becomes. Affection fades, utility endures. So your next mission is to make your usefulness permanent, while making your dependence invisible. How? You build leverage outside the relationship. You maintain projects, networks, and influence that have nothing to do with the powerful person who opened the door for you. This is counterintuitive, but essential. The less you need them, the more they want you close. Then comes another rule almost no one talks about: never gossip upward. In elite circles, even a hint that you repeat private conversations is social suicide. The powerful operate in ecosystems of paranoia. Loyalty is currency. Discretion is armor. Speak less than you know. Reveal nothing entrusted to you. Protect their secrets like your own. Because once people realize you never leak, even your silence becomes valuable. Machiavelli warned that secrets are a pure form of power. The one who can hold them becomes indispensable. But discretion alone isn't enough. You must also master timing. Know when to step forward and when to fade into the background. Power is rhythm, alignment, sensitivity. If you push at the wrong moment, you look desperate. If you withdraw too long, you look irrelevant. You read the room. You read their energy. You align yourself with their ascent when they're rising. You reduce your presence when they're under stress. Never outshine them when they crave visibility. Never abandon them when they crave reassurance. The powerful remember those who can read them without being told. Then comes a counterintuitive method for building genuine connection. Don't always talk about success. Talk about their struggle. The one thing powerful people rarely get is real curiosity about their fears, mistakes, and private battles. Everyone praises their victories. Almost nobody respects their scars. When you ask about the lessons they learned, the failures they hid, the moments that shaped them, something rare happens. They see you as someone who recognizes their humanity, not just their status. This is the doorway into their confidence. But as your influence grows, you must master another art Machiavelli loved: playing smaller than you are. Downplay your influence. Understate your abilities. Let others discover your power organically. This disarms envy. People rise alongside you instead of against you. Your ascent feels natural, not threatening. And while others speculate, you quietly build the single most powerful asset in any hierarchy: your reputation. You guard it with behavior, not explanations. You don't correct rumors. You drown them in consistent action. Because in the world of influence, reputation decides outcomes before the game even begins. Once you've stabilized your image, you enter a higher realm of strategy. Reciprocity with timing. The powerful don't value quick repayment. They value meaningful repayment. If someone helps you today, don't rush. Wait until your return matters. when it protects them, elevates them, or saves them trouble. A delayed favor transforms a transaction into a bond, and bonds are rare at the top. As you rise into higher circles of power, you start to see the real game, not the one people talk about, but the one they play. Power isn't loud, it's not theatrical, it's subtle, it's silent. It's built in moments most people never notice. And the first rule of this final stage is simple. Never take sides too quickly. When conflicts break out, let others rush to defend their ego. Let them reveal their loyalties, insecurities, and blind spots. You watch. You gather information before you choose direction. Often the person who speaks last speaks with the most authority. By then, everyone else has exposed their intentions. Your clarity will feel like leadership, even if you never asked for it. From here, you develop something even more powerful: atmospheric influence. This is when people begin adjusting themselves around you. They pause before disagreeing with you. They wait to see your reaction. They speak with a little more care. How did this happen? Not by force, by presence. You influence the room without saying much at all. Then something shifts. You stop chasing introductions. Introductions start chasing you. People invite you because your presence elevates their environment. Your energy makes them look sharper, calmer, more in control. You become a status amplifier, something people want near them. This is where your reputation becomes your greatest asset. Machiavelli said reputations win battles before they begin. Your consistency, your composure, your precision, these become the stories people tell about you when you're not in the room. But proximity to power is dangerous if you lack discipline. Opportunities, favors, shortcuts. These are traps disguised as gifts. Most climbers lose themselves here. They become dependent. You must do the opposite. Accept benefits without losing autonomy. When someone powerful gives you an opportunity, do not act saved. Do not act indebted. Respond as a partner, not a servant. This aligns with what I'm building. This will help me contribute more. A subtle shift, but it protects you. Because once the powerful believe they own you, they'll test the limits of that ownership. Your boundaries must be calm, firm, and quiet, not emotional. Then comes the rule most people never master. Enter every room to observe, not perform. Trying to prove yourself gives other people authority over your value. Observing gives you clarity and control. You watch how people speak, who they interrupt, who they fear, who they try to impress. This information becomes your advantage. No performance can compare to understanding the room better than anyone else. And when it's time to speak, you speak with weight, not volume. A short, precise sentence hits harder than a 5-minute monologue. Your composure becomes your currency. But as your influence grows, expect challenges. People will provoke you just to test your emotional stability. Your reaction defines you. Never let insult pull you off balance. A calm, unreadable expression signals something terrifying. No one controls your emotions. This is emotional supremacy, a trait that pushes you from participant to quiet authority. Yet here is the final paradox. To rise, you must connect, but never attach. Attachment creates dependency. Dependency destroys clarity. You must remain warm, yet untouchable. Empathic, but never owned. Supportive, but never reliant. This balanced connection without dependence is what makes you truly dangerous in the world of power. Because once you master it, you become the rarest figure in any hierarchy, trusted, respected, and impossible to control. And that is where real power begins. In the end, power doesn't belong to the loud, the emotional, or the desperate. It belongs to those who move with calm calculation, who speak only with purpose who build alliances without becoming owned by any of them. True influence grows in silence through presence, through restraint, through the ability to walk away from anything that tries to claim you. When you no longer chase approval, when your value speaks louder than your words, when your boundaries are unshakable and your intentions are unreadable, you stop climbing and start shaping the climb itself. Master this equilibrium of confidence and mystery, and you won't just enter powerful rooms. You'll redefine how those rooms move around you.